Hello everyone! Happy first day of Mercury retrograde. I hope it's treating you well and not too chaotic or crazy or whatever as it retrogrades through Leo. In honor of the Mercury retrograding in the sign of Leo and our upcoming Leo season, I decided to make another video like I did for Capricorn about the tarot card associated with the zodiac sign of Leo. I feel like Leo is another one of the signs that kind of gets a one-dimensional kind of painted view over understanding it, where it's like, oh, you're a Leo, so you need to be the center of attention, you need to be in the spotlight, you have great hair, you're bougie as heck, like all of these things, that Leo is the theatrical, it is the drama, it brings the show, it is the entertainment, it is the warm, it's the light of the sun kind of vibe, but in the way that it kind of can suck the life out of the room because it has to be the only one, which is, it's doing Leo a little dirty. So in an effort to ditch the stereotypes around Leo and, make the apology for our Leonine brothers and sisters, I give you the tarot card of Leo. Bum, ba, ba. Surprise! It's the one with the lion on it. Now, of course, this is the Strength card, and the Strength is all about being able to stand in your truth, in your authenticity. It's also standing up to people, using standing strong and fixed in the face of adversity. Strong people tend to have more grit and tenacity and ability to survive and thrive. Buhowever, the other side of that is knowing when to give, because true strength is not rigidity, right? We build buildings on fault lines in high earthquake areas to withstand earthquakes by making it so it can do this, and bridges and stuff, right? Because if you made it rigid, it just crumbles, and that is strength. It is knowing when to be rigid and hold your ground and when to be flexible, and that is Leo. Leo is not a self-centered person per se, and I mean an unhealed one can be for sure, but we're talking about a healed, balanced Leo and the complexities and the potentials within. And Leo is big-hearted, like big hearts. Yes, they want to be in the spotlight. Yes, they want to be noticed, but they are just as likely to drag their friends on stage and share that spotlight with them, because they're like, this is the real person who did a lot of the work behind the scenes. This is the other person that it's this energy of there is enough for everyone. It is solar, right? Because there's enough for everybody. So that is true strength, is knowing how to give yourself credit, but also understand that you are not a monolith. Strength is also security in yourself and your knowing, in your understanding of yourself, and knowing your desires and your weaknesses and your strengths. And as a strength card, you play to your strengths, right? But you don't ignore the weaknesses. You are aware of them. And this true strength can be asking for help in the places where you are not the strongest. That is also very Leonine energy. They are not going to try and fix it all alone. That is more Taurus, because I am both. So I know that the Taurus tries to do it all by themselves, whereas the Leo is like, oh, I could get people to help me with this. And that's also where they get the rap a bit of, being the center of attention and trying to organize, because they're the ones who seem to be lifted up more. But that's because they are solar and they are the light in the room. And sometimes they just naturally exude this energy that people notice more than with other signs. So we have this Leo card. This is this card I always think of, like when you chase after your dog when it's got something in its mouth it's not supposed to and it's running away. That's definitely one of these, the energy of the card, where you're like, what do you got in there? Give it to me. Because like forcing their jaw open with is very uncomfortable, and it feels like you might hurt them, but you're trying to do it delicately, but not, because if they swallow it, if it's something that's really bad for them, they'll be in the vet suffering more later. So a little bit of pain up front so that they don't suffer, both of you, in the long run. Leo energy, that's knowing when to force. And also the other side of that is, if you look at what she's doing down there, it almost looks like she's gently closing his mouth too. I mean, we don't know if she's opening or closing, but either way, if she's gently closing it, it's also talking about when to not necessarily fold, but to quiet it. Quiet all those lion-like tendencies, the roaring, the pridefulness, and the ego, all the solar stuff. When to shush it down for the greater good, or for, you know, a better outcome. It's that knowing, it's that discernment. That is Leo. Because Leo is not just the lion here. Leo is also the maiden in the white dress. We're both. And I say we. I'm a rising Leo, but Leo is that primal rage. I think of like Sekhmet, right? You know, and she's the one who drinks all the blood until they have to trick her to stop decimating the populations of humans. That is, and it's a righteous rage. It's not a frivolous or anything like that. It's that, but it's also like the warmth of the sun, that sometimes we can get a little over excited or single-minded about this is what's going to bring me my glory and fame and what I want. We forget about the people around us, and that's when people get sunburned by our light. But the other side of, as you work through your leonine stuff, you get to balance that with the maiden, and the maiden who knows how to navigate and hold that rage or that ego in a healthy way, because the lion's the ego. Because ego is not a bad thing. The whole thing about ego being bad comes from New Age philosophies, which tell us that anything human and low vibrational is not conducive to your ascension or higher vibrational, higher self. This is not something I believe in. In fact, I believe it's a slippery slope from using that as something that is helpful to your personal practice and something that upholds system of oppression. That's a whole other video. But in this card, this is probably, I don't really know, this, you could view it as the lower self and the higher self, you know, if you wanted to, really. But, you know, they're touching and they're close. So they're important to work together within. That is a healed Leo. And of course, you have every sign and every planet in your chart. So this I'm talking about in the archetypical Leo, Leo, Leo. If you were everything Leo, what would it be like? And what you would be experiencing or having to work through. And of course, the baseness versus the higher self is not something I believe in. I believe it's both inside of you. But reconciling the two of them and learning what your true strength is and what your weaknesses are and how to have strength in your weak spots and soften your strengths so they're not so hard and rigid. That is the path of the Leo. I'm going to make a second video on the minor arcana that is associated with Leo, so you can see the depth and the understanding of what Leo's strengths and purposes are in the everyday world, in the mundane. So stay tuned for part 2.